Well, it looks like things are situation normal. I just, oops.
Ellis.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great.
You sound good, professionally mic'd and all that. How many shows have you done on your show?
Not many. Actually, I'm doing D Live stuff. Have you heard of D Live?
No. Is it something you can make money at?
Yes. Yeah, actually, you just sort of sit and stream or draw or whatever you want to do, and people donate you money. Well, actually, they donate what is called a Lino. It's a cryptocurrency, cryptocurrency or whatever, and that translates into money, like via PayPal or whatever.
D Live. Okay, that sounds cool. So I guess introduce yourself to people that may only come to my show. That'd be about 10 people, I think, and you're one of them. So, so go ahead and throw out who you are. And, you're pretty interesting to me because you're an indie filmmaker and, getting it done. Of course, nowadays it's like when, what's that guy's name that worked with, and now I'm going to start drawing blanks on names, but he worked with Kinski about the boat that they dragged all the way through the Amazon. You know who I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, Werner Herzog.
Werner Herzog. Like you said, anybody that's not making a movie, if they truly want to call themselves a filmmaker nowadays, what the heck's wrong with you? You can make a movie. It may only, if you decide to spend $80 on it, then it'll look like you spent $80 on it. But
yeah, I made mine for like $300. And
wow, you went to Vegas to do it, huh?
No, I shot it here in Indiana. That's my friend who did it in Vegas.
Oh, okay. I was reading. I was catching up on one of your shows, and so there was some sort of big thing where you guys went to Vegas and raised hell, or somebody did.
Yeah, that was him.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm stuck here in Muncie, Indiana, right now. So, yeah, it's no fun.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, but you could get it done though if you felt like it. $300, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna drop a trailer like probably the beginning of June. But speaking of projects, beginning of June, yeah. Beginning of July. I don't know what hell else. I'm not sure what decade we're in.
Yeah.
In the beginning of July, I'm gonna drop a trailer, which looks way better than the movie, of course.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, if I do my job right, it looks way better than the movie. And but I saw where you have a new book, Albino or something.
Oh my God! Yeah. If you're curious about that book, buy it, understanding that I wrote it back in the mid '80s because I had friends, John Woolley and Ron Wolf, wrote a book, and this was the first time I've been around this kind of success. I was in a newspaper job. And they had people buy that book. They split, I think, $10,000 or something like that. And that to me just seemed like the world's coolest success in the world. And so based on saying, hey, I know people that can do this, that means I must be able to do it. And I tore into writing my own book, and it's as bad as it is. And what I did was I kept, since I paid for a professional typist, to do it for me. I had kept that manuscript for years and years and years. I finally transcribed it. And of course, at that point, what you should do is rewrite something. I didn't. I just turned it into a PDF and put it out there. So if you want to see what it looks like when someone that just says you can do it, does it, and thinks he's Stephen King when he's got no clue. And in other words, it's just full of passive voice and stuff that off-puts you, but at the same time, it's telling a story. I read it. I was surprised. I bought a copy, had it sent to me. I was able to read it. It's just that it's not a it's not a page turner. It is if you're if you wrote the pages, I guess. But that's where we all fall down. We can't step outside our own. So, but yeah, like I say, I should put something on that says what about what people are getting.
Yeah.
But it's my attempt at being Stephen King because that's what those guys did. What's interesting, this came out like it was called Old Fears by John Woolley and Ron Wolf. And I'm thinking it is mid 80s. And we'd have to, what we could, hey, Scott,
Hey.
I'm explaining my book, Albino, to, what should we call you? Your name, PunkHiro?
You can just call me James.
Okay, James. Okay, let's do that.
Hang on just a second. I got to get my headphones.
You dropped your iPhone.
Well, no, my headphones are synced to my iPad.
That iPad is a workhorse for you. So anyway, yeah, they John. I was just telling a story about John Woolley and Ron Wolf, their book Old Fears, and it's so weird that within months of that coming out, their concept about nightmares coming to life based on your worst fears. Guess what came out in months?
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street came out, and it just seemed like it's just an example of zeitgeist effects that you couldn't even point a finger at what causes zeitgeist.
It's happened to me 3 times.
Really?
I've written several novels. The Last Blue Sky, I took off the market, whatever you want to call it, because it was so reminiscent of another project. And I wrote another book that I took off for another reason because I was so ashamed of it.
Well, that's the albino. Right.
I was so ashamed. I was like, if I die, this is what I'm going to be remembered.
Yeah, exactly.
For. And I don't want that to happen. So, yeah. But I'm finishing up a new book called The Pest House. And it's about the same length as Albino, which is about 56 pages. That's my dog. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Mailman out there or something. So is that a novelette or a novella? Would you call?
I don't know. Basically, anybody that really writes would probably say, "Well, that's just a note."
How long was it?
56 pages, I think, is what you said, right?
That could be a novella.
Okay. These guys that. What?
What did you do with it?
You haven't put it out yet, huh?
Yeah, no, I'm going to release it next month.
Are you digging in deep on rewrites, or are you just are you ready?
No, I'm digging in deep on rewrites. That's the hardest part about writing anything is you have to reread your own material. That's the biggest torture of all.
Well, yeah, it is. If you are, it's horrifying to run across. Did I actually mean to convey myself in this way? Yeah. It is when you realize, man, that's got to be changed. If you're sensitive to the speed bumps of what you've written, yeah, it's hard to dig in and change it.
And you get sick of it a while. Like eventually, I can't determine whether it's crap or it's any good because I've been with it for so long that I'm just so immune to all the words. It looks like mumbo jumbo to me that I can't tell anymore. So I don't know.
Have you dug in at all deeply on on books about writing, etc.? Have you?
Oh yeah.
I like I told Scott when I finally decided, let's get an update from Scott. I'll quit just jabbering here. What's up, Scott?
This is my last panel for issue 2.
Oh, nice.
So if I finish this while we're talking, I'll have finished issue 2 of my comic.
Oh man, well you got a lot of detail there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people sitting around this table, so we'll see. But I was working last night.
Okay, that's the middle. It just is the last, but it's the middle
of
town.
The middle, yeah. I knocked off early last night and went and ran so that I could finish it, so I'd have something to work on tonight.
Excellent.
I love that middle panel.
Oh, thank you.
It's super detailed.
It's the last panel, or it's the last page of the book, and the issue 2 takes place in a shopping mall, and they fight all these supernatural creatures in the shopping mall, and it ends up kind of with them all eating around a table. And so I kind of tried to evoke the feel of the end of the first Avengers movie when they're all eating shawarma or whatever.
Yeah.
They're mellowing out. They've done their bit.
Exactly. But I drew it, and then I've redrawn it a couple times because I never could get the perspective quite right. It didn't, and I got done, and I realized I left the character out, so I made him stand.
There you go. He came to the party late.
Exactly, and ironically, he's the character that's modeled after the publisher. So, yeah.
you guys at any point when you if you need to show off something, tell me and I'll focus on you. I was going to focus on something here. This is my friend Jeff Ranjo sent me this. You remember all these toys that were built like Transformers for a while? This is something called Joe something or other toys, and this thing turns into a little box no bigger than about this piece. Wow. And it unfolds into this gorilla. Jeff is an artist that was a story artist for Disney. That we were roommates at one time, and we started together a little group called Tuesday Art Group, and we used to have life drawing on Tuesdays. And I just tore his arm off, but luckily it clips back on. But anyway, I'll do that in a bit. But anyway, it's a really neat little toy. And he knows I love gorillas, and he sent me that just out of the blue. Haven't had a lot of contact with him lately, but it was nice of him to think of me and send me a gorilla.
Heck yeah, man.
That's kind of cool.
Young a little bit.
Yeah. I'm going to put that on later. It's going to take some concentration, apparently.
So you and Scott do the movie podcast, right?
Right.
Yes.
And I was curious. I really haven't had it. I can't find it. I don't know where it's at. Is it?
It's on Podbean. I'll put actually all I have to do is cut and paste the links from the last one. I have been getting good about putting links in now, so you can find it when I get done with this tonight.
Cool. So, like one of my favorite movies is Murder by Death. Have you guys done that one, or have you heard of that film?
No, it has to be before 73, and I believe Murder by Death probably is a little later than that. I'm not sure.
Our cutoff is Jaws, because our theory is that, and I think it's actually like 74 or something like that, but the theory is that Jaws was kind of the first modern, like, big summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
And so we consciously try to be before that. So that's our cutoff date, because we kind of wanted to set a few arbitrary rules, but that's about the only rule.
It's tough. There's so many movies that and we've gotten to where we've had a bad habit of running right up next to it. We've got movies that it just seems like our tastes are just we're claiming we want classics, but we're saying,
hey, my last choice was from 1950.
Yeah, that was a good choice.
We alternate. There's 4 of us on the podcast, and we take turns. Everybody takes turns picking. And really, we have a friend who has a pretty nice projector at his house, and it's just an excuse to go watch movies at his house more than anything.
I have one too. Yeah, I have a big movie room with a big.
It's a movie room. Yeah, by the time, it's just a huge screen. I forget, he's given me the dimensions on it several times. It takes up a wall. It takes up the average wall in a house.
Yeah, that's what this one is. It's
you're backed up right next to one, huh?
Me? Yeah. This is it. This is the big.
Is this your media room? All right, cool.
Cool.
Murder by Death, though. That's the funny one, right?
It's Alec Guinness and Peter Sellers.
Right. Peter
Oh, what
Sellers.
year is that? What year is that? That may be eligible.
I don't know.
It's early 70s. I thought it was 71, but
Maybe it is eligible. I wouldn't mind watching that some evening. We've been light on comedies. I'll look up Murder by Death right now.
it actually has Truman Capote in it also.
Yes.
Kind of messed up.
Says, wait, it doesn't work every time. Yeah, he's gonna let him shoot him.
He's gonna let him shoot him.
Well, yeah, he's pretty sure he's got it worked out. Some sort of gimmick where he's gonna let someone shoot him, and then he just backs down and says, "Wait, might have some bugs in it." And he's such a funny character anyway. Murder by Death, 1976. So it's 3 years after I cut off.
I always where did the Clue come out? Because I always thought that maybe
that was about 80, I thought.
No, I mean the board game itself. I always thought
game.
the board game might have been based on that film, Murder by Death.
I think you're probably right. It was so much fun. It was a Neil Simon thing. I think so.
Yeah,
Neil Simon. Yeah. I mean, those people are just so funny. Every one of them is just perfect for it. Every one of them's got something that cracks you up at some point in it.
And I'm not even a murder mystery guy, really, but for some reason I love that film.
No, it's because it's clever and it knows what it's doing. It's like Steve Martin's Forever Plaid. Those guys, obviously love those film noir films, and they had a lot of fun sending them up.
That it was Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
Oh yeah.
Forever
Plaid is a
musical.
A musical, yeah, which I have seen.
Oh, have you really? Did you see it in San Diego? Yeah, it
was fun.
One time I was in San Diego walking around and I saw it playing at some theater or whatever theater there.
It's fun,
like,
it
what in the world is that?
It's reminiscent of Beetlejuice, where the whole crowd crashes, and the football players are saying, talking to the receptionist and calling her coach.
Oh yeah, that's about like a singing group that dies?
Yeah, they die.
Group.
Yeah, they die while they're touring. And so we're treated to a whole lot of barbershop quartet stuff, which maybe sounds like a hellish evening, actually, but it was actually it's actually very good. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good barber quartet movies.
Barbershop quartet movies.
That may be the one.
And, an old Andy Griffith, maybe the one where they tried to convince Barney not to be part of it. And
oh yeah, because he can't sing.
Yeah, he's pretty sure he's fundamental to it. And they can't hurt his feelings. That's what's important to almost all these premises, is that you can't hurt his feelings. You can't just tell him he can't sing. So they gotta go ahead.
Jim, it's Jim, right?
James, you can call me anything you want.
Oh, Jim. Well,
Okay.
So what do you do?
I'm an artist and a writer. I actually do some stuff for InWorld. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I almost gotten weak a couple times here lately, saying I ought to go back even for $40-$80 a month. It's money, and I'd be being an artist, and I just got so disappointed with some of what I did. Yeah, some of the paychecks are, you go into it knowing they're disappointing.
Right. Yeah, you can't be too disappointed because you know what you're getting.
But no, they gave me an assignment which was vampires in Grand Central Station.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it sounds cool, but I guess I just fell down so flat on it. I just had such a, it was fun in the negative. So I, I had to. I decided to reappraise doing those, since I wasn't making much money
from that one assignment.
Yeah, oh, it was a couple. Well, and then the other thing that made me think about it was that the only reason I was there was to get better as a digital painter, and
Oh
I
yeah.
just could not step loose from doing colored drawings. I wanted to be painting,
Oh
and
yeah.
by the end of it, by the end of the day, I was still doing colored drawings, and so I now I've recently done a couple of digital paintings that pleased me. So I have been thinking about, hey, in world, you may get a note from me because the guy acted like the door was open. So I may go back to that. What all have you done? How much have you done for James?
I've done about 10 pieces so far. One
Cool.
I had to actually redo. What's his name? It's Michael, I think, is the art
So,
director.
hmm
Yeah, he got a hold of me. They were quite upset because they wanted some sort of Amazon lady, and so I drew the typical what I thought was kind of.
yeah, yeah, they don't want sex. I can tell you that. I know
And
what
they
you're.
were like, we don't like scantily clad women.
That's right.
I'm like, wow. So it was kind of weird drawing a fully clothed medieval type barbarian. I just really didn't know how to go about it. So I had to redo it. And I guess they were okay with the second one because I got paid. But yeah, I do that. And I write for my local newspaper. I'm a columnist for the Star Press, which is,
Yeah, I mean that could
I don't
go.
want to say how I feel about the newspaper, actually.
No, that wouldn't be wise.
I don't
Well,
want to.
Yeah.
plus that's such a all that can go away tomorrow. It seems like all the newspapers.
I can't believe
Oh
it
yeah.
still exists. It must be because the population's like 50,000 people here,
Yeah,
and mostly people in their 70s, probably. So they still like traditional type stuff.
yeah, yeah.
It's a dying little town. The only thing, our claim to fame is if you've ever seen it, I'm sure you have because you guys are movie buffs. Close Encounters of the Third Kind was supposed to take place in Muncie, Indiana.
Did they
Oh
actually
yeah.
they
Yeah,
actually shoot any of it there?
no. Spielberg came and he took one look at the place, and I guess he decided, no.
Now
Yeah.
where's Notre Dame? That's not around there, is it?
Yeah, it's about 50, 60 miles away.
Oh, okay. I have a friend that grew up somewhere around there because he's a big Notre Dame fan.
Cool. Yeah, actually, in Hudsucker Proxy too, they also mentioned Muncie, Indiana.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's one of them. School Muncie. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, you're right.
And then David Letterman, of course, went to Ball State, which is
yeah.
a big school here in Muncie. So, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's pretty big. I mean, Letterman.
50,000 people live in bad size for a town. That's about the size of the town I grew up in.
How big is Oklahoma City? I have no idea.
I don't think it's 1 million people.
Oh my God!
No, I don't think it is.
But even close, that's insane. I'd have a meltdown.
Well,
Have you ever had an ambition to go beyond where what holds you there? If you've got any sort of like, I had an art director tell me when I showed him some storyboards in our local market here in Oklahoma. He asked me, "What are you doing here? If this is your ambition, what are you doing here?" And I took him seriously. So this was back in 1985, and I was in Dallas in 2 or 3
a week.
months. Yeah, or a month or so. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Pretty
went out
quick.
to California, but it didn't seem like I went to San Diego.
Cool.
And I lived in Vegas for a while also, but it didn't seem like big metropolises to me. Like it didn't feel like 1 million people. You know what I mean?
No, San Diego doesn't. No, that's true. And plus it's hard to get a job there.
Yeah.
Whereas you go up the street to L.A., which of course I lived there, Culver City, and didn't find myself I was just the wrong age by the time I really needed work, and a person probably with my talent set could have found work, but I was just a little old for it. Plus I'd never done the hard work of really learning to survive as a freelancer. I'd been spoiled by years and years of having a check as an employee. I still couldn't survive if I had to be a freelancer. I'd have to go find work. I just don't know how to feed that beast.
Wow, look at that though. Look at that. I love that. Oh, that is a master at work right there.
Creature.
Yep.
I was going to tell Scott I really liked his anatomy study.
Oh yeah.
What was it?
It was a torso. There's a book, I forget the author, but I think it's Snyder's his name.
Snyder, oh yeah.
Kind of a blue book that I've in anticipation for finishing this. I've kind of been thinking about what I'm going to do with my free time, and one of the things is do more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I found myself a little extra time last night, and so I did that.
The thing I noticed about your study was you really got in deep on doing the deltoids, folding over the pectorals. And it was really very clear. And since that was under your hands and you were doing the drawing on it, when it comes up to that clavicle, that little bony part where you very clearly show, here's where the deltoids end and here's where the rest of it, the chest takes over on the attachments from that point on. There's this really cool little bony part that demarks that it's, once you get familiar with that, it's just the only way you'll ever draw the collarbone again. You just know that little bone's there, and that's where your lumpy part of your shoulder starts.
You guys are so astute at I don't know, like foreshortening and perspective, and those are just things that I struggle with all the time. Even anatomy just like horrifies me. And you guys just seem to lay it down like it's. I mean, that's the way to do it. Is just do it so loose, like.
Well,
there's a hidden thing on everybody where it's like when you watch Doug, he's inking his Earthworm Jim book right in front of your eyes.
Oh, I know. It's like magic.
But it does seem like magic, but the prep that went into it, he does the script, he has to break down all the imagery in it, and he has to do thumbnails. Now, he is on a very accelerated pace compared to how most people could even physically even dream about doing it. But because he comes from thumbnails, but the secret trick on how he's doing it is those thumbnails are really finished for what he does.
That is the trick.
And when he comes up,
thumbnails.
Yeah, he comes up from those thumbnails. He's ready to ink. I mean, he will still do a little pencil to lay it down, but then of course he's real familiar and what do you call that one? Oh, virtuoso. He can just start inking and be confident that he can fill in the blanks of here, this and that. But that's time, and I don't know. Does it take some sort of little bump in your head that says how good you can get? I don't know. I think people can get as good as they want to get at art.
Oh, I believe that 100%.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm worried about time.
Yeah, well, time is something I've been thinking about now that I got so much of it, which is great as a retired guy. But time, the way you need to use it is you need to put it into chunks that you can handle. One of my favorite writers, Elmore Leonard, who wrote a lot of movies. You know that probably. Joe Kidd and Get Shorty and lots of movies. Mr. Majestic.
Tarantino bought like most of his work up.
Oh yeah, yeah, he loved Elmore Leonard. But what was that one with the Jackie Brown,
Yeah, Jackie Brown.
which is based on Rum Punch.
Cam Greer.
And so Elmore Leonard, he'd written about 5 or 10 books, working as some sort of an insurance, wage slave, where he would just every morning he'd come in with 20 minutes or hour to himself, and he'd do some writing, and he had one drawer he opened up, and that's where the project was. And all of a sudden he's piled up books. And
I think
that's
consistency.
Yeah, it is
I think
consistent.
consistency makes a big difference on that kind of thing. I'm on the time I have off. Well, the last 5 pages of this book I penciled in 2 days, and my goal was to do, because I'd read that John Byrne was penciling. He would pencil a page in 3 or 4 hours, and so I kind of thought about, well, what's he doing, and part of it was he was staying focused on it. He wasn't goofing around.
That was his only job. Yeah.
Yeah, that was he. But when he was there, when he was at the table, he was working,
Mm-hmm.
and he wasn't distracted. He doesn't even listen to music or anything when he draws. But and so I kind of studied some of his work and thought about it, and I was able to do those 5 pages. And so now what I want to do is, when I finish this, I want to do it. I've got a sample script that I'm going to draw, because I've got this idea in my head that people have disagreed with me, but I this idea, because people always tell me, in comics, the only thing that matters is the work. It doesn't matter, any kind of personality thing or whatever doesn't matter. And I mean, you can argue whether it's true or not or whatever. But so what I want to do, and I've always said, well, I feel like that's not necessarily the case. And so I'm going to draw this sample when I'm done. And part of the thing is, I want to draw it quickly, because my idea is, if I can do it quickly and get samples out and they go well, then I could do work and keep my day job. And so I'm gonna work at a quick pace, and I'm just literally gonna bomb everybody with this sample, and I'm gonna send it out with no personal information whatsoever, and just to see what happens.
That's a cool idea, actually.
Yeah, I'm just just to kind of satisfy my curiosity of and the other thing is, I don't want to. I'm working on this project. I don't want to get. I don't want the. I want to send the samples in kind of pure. In other words, I don't want them seeing anything else I've done. I've sent on a lot of samples off over the years. I don't want anybody to dismiss it because they'd already seen my work, anything like that. I just want to do the work, do it at a speed that I'd be comfortable doing a monthly book at, and see what happens. I've got, my goal is to. I've got thumbnails. Part of it is I've got pretty good thumbnails, or I'm working on pretty good. They're not quite done, but I do my thumbnails, and I'll blow up my thumbnails. I don't know if you can see this or not, in Photoshop, and print them on the back of my page, and then I got a light box here, and I'll light box them, and so it makes it really quick to do a page. And so I'm gonna do it and see what happens. Probably nothing. Probably nobody will answer me. They'll probably know I'm tricking them, or trying to trick them, or whatever. But
you got to give it a
see.
shot, though. See what happens. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, that's the thing, is it doesn't matter if it doesn't work, or if no one responds or whatever. It doesn't really matter, because I mean, I'm working on this book. I mean, maybe the worst thing could happen is they say, "Can we see more?" Or something.
Yeah.
Like, but the writer, I think, is going to take about 3 weeks for the next issue to get it written. So I got a little bit of time to kill. So in between doing all the housework and stuff I put off to do this, I'm going to do that. I figure it's 5 pages. I can do 5 pages. I mean, if I can do 5 pages in 2 days, then I'm good. So maybe, maybe give it like a week or whatever, however long it takes. But the goal is to get through it quickly, just to see.
Now, are either of you guys at the point where you look at your work and you're satisfied? Because I can't be, and I have a
No.
hard time getting things out because I'm always like, if I just did this one more time, it could be better.
No, I'm in retrograde myself, so
Well,
I realize I've been better. So
you've been better.
that is tough. Yeah, yeah.
Listen,
No,
Mac,
that's not entirely true when it comes to some things, but in terms of like focus, my focus has gone to hell. So it's
that's because you have all that spare time.
my attention span. My attention span is probably like every modernity afflicted person these days is our attention spans have been killed by the internet.
Well, that was their thing. In that time that I was working on those pages, I was completely off Facebook and all social media.
That'll
I
help.
just was, yeah. So, and now that I'm back on it, supposedly, when I get a message or something, I'm kind of offended. Like, who's bothering me? You know?
Mm-hmm. Yep. You know what? I saw something where James had seen something and I couldn't believe he knew about it. And oh, well, wait a second. It was the Ultimate Warrior, which is also very obscure. Did you ever get around to seeing Darker Than Amber?
I have not, but I want to.
There's a bad copy on YouTube. It's out there. There's a full one that you can watch on YouTube. Watch the one if you can find it with the German-looking subtitles. It's got the best
resolution.
Yeah, well, they've got a fight scene or two in it that are his really memorable fight scenes. Robert Klaus got his job because Bruce Lee saw his fight scene in Darker Than Amber and said, "Wow!" Said, "Who did that fight scene? I want that guy." So that was his resume enhancer.
I'm really into collecting these retro films and stuff. I like grindhouse type stuff, almost lost film, but they're so expensive. I don't know if you know about these companies like Arrow. I'm sure you've heard of Criterion.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And they release these, the best transfers possible.
Right.
In 4K, they rescan them and everything, but it adds up. Like if you buy just 5 of those a month, you're talking $200.
You've got a university pretty close by. Do you have a good library? Because that's well, I tell you what, Criterion, man, they've got a good relationship with libraries.
Yeah.
Anytime there's something Criterion has done, usually your library has it. So that's my advice on that. Just don't worry about possessing it. I'm getting to the point where I'm thinking like, I don't want to possess things anymore.
And I'm having that same feeling too. I was just like, why am I wasting money on this stuff? Because
I just want it in the cloud. Let me dip into it. That's all I want to do.
Well, the bad thing is what I've noticed is, just because you buy a book, a movie, or whatever, doesn't mean you have time to read it or watch it, or that's what I'm struggling with. But I figure it'll all be there. One of these days I'll retire and I'll have it all. And then
that's one reason to buy your own copy of something. Sure.
The convenience of having it, of owning it, versus I don't know. I still like physical media. There's a couple good documentaries on Amazon about. They're specifically about VHS movies, VHS tapes, and they're about that decline of that physical media, and they talk about how that stuff rising up really changed the movie industry. And how, especially with VHS tapes, that there's so many movies were shot on tape that would never have been shot on film and then even to the fact that with all these rental places that spring up in the wake particularly the mom and pop places, you know, and so people that were into like horror and that kind of thing would go to these places, or genre films, I should say, would go to these places, and they would be exposed to stuff because there'd be people that worked there that knew about it and cared about it.
Right.
And
Quentin
then,
Tarantino would tell you about it, saying, "Watch this movie."
Yeah.
It's this Hong Kong movie where all these guys pull off this heist, and then they get together and they shoot each other. By the end of it,
my story in a way. I went to art school. I went to the Stan Nossett School of Fine Arts. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he did some covers for the Saturday Evening Post and A Boy's Life and stuff like that.
Oh.
So he was
cool.
He was the real deal. But I got most of my education through film and going to the video store and looking at those box covers and sort of taking a chance and appreciating what you can do with a low budget and all, kind of laughing at these films in a way too, and almost
Full Moon did some interesting things,
things that don't take themselves too seriously. But and I've seen those films that Scott's talking about. I think one's called Please Rewind.
That's one. One of like VHS Massacre. I think.
VHS Massacre. And the thing is, like, when you go pick out those films, you are going to watch them because you paid $5 for 2 of them or whatever. So no matter how bad it is, you're going to sit through it. But if you do like Netflix or whatever, you might watch it for 15 minutes and say,
Oh yeah, I sample all the time. Yeah, there's a documentary now called Grindhouse, which I just sampled. I watched the first 15 or so minutes of it, and I'm going to go back to it. But I'm that way now. I'm not sticking with things.
Oh, I think that's our culture as a whole, I think.
Yeah, exactly. The attention span still shot.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When we get together, it's totally on the Classic Cinema podcast night. It's almost unnatural, the fact that we're watching a movie from beginning to end, except for bladder breaks. We're just going, and that's. Well, you guys still go to movies. I don't go to movies anymore. So yeah, you're stuck.
I do occasionally.
Yeah.
I still want to go see X-Men, even though everybody says it sucks.
I don't know. I like the 70s to 80s era of film. I'm kind of stuck in that era.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like those 80 films. Did you like Turbo Kid, which evokes?
Yeah. Yep.
It was kind of fun, and it was a pretty cool trick in terms of like pulling it off, because there's nothing that says you're going to get all those notes without being too cute about it. They weren't too cute about it. It just seemed like they'd found something that came from that era.
Yeah,
which is a pretty cool trick.
Now, how'd you guys become friends, you and Scott?
We met with. There's a local group here in Oklahoma City that is literally like Oklahoma comic creators, and we have get-togethers. And Ella showed up at a get-together.
Fresh from being deported from Southern California because I had no money. I had left at that point. Yeah.
So how long ago was that?
When was that? When did you get kicked out of California?
It's been a good. It's been 7 years, something like that. It's been a long time ago. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I could check it by my YouTube history.
When you were working at Blue Sky with Doug,
yeah,
he always says that were the best pencil guy that he's ever seen. I was just curious, like, did you know then, like, that Doug had that spark, or did you think he was?
Oh, let me tell you, Doug was one of those guys. See, Doug has been he's been actually like had these people that because he was around them. When you understand that people don't want to see your script because what they know about it is if they even take a look at what you want to show them, that they're going to be sued for it because later on you're going to say, that was my idea.
Yeah.
And Doug had that happen to him at once at a Kinko's. A guy sued him for something that became a project that happened for real for Doug.
Wow.
And
Well, no,
but
wait. Did the guy work
I'm
at
not sure the
Kinko's?
total details. I can't tell you which
Oh,
project
okay.
it was. I don't want to either, but because it'll, the Kinko guy will come after me.
No doubt.
But the deal is, and what should satisfy anybody that thinks that Doug has stole their idea, is if you're going to say something like that, get in a creativity contest with him, because you're not going to win that contest. Doug is one of the most creative guys, and I don't know where he gets it. He gets it from early on by being influenced by things by like George Harriman. There was some whims. He was always attracted to the most whimsical thing. He still loves the idea of anybody that can write a true fairy tale, which, if you study what a fairy tale really is, it's really a real respectable storytelling kind of mechanism that's for all ages, really.
Yeah, like the Grimm fairy tales.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah, all that stuff, a true fairy tale, and a lot of stuff has got genre convention all over it, but it's actually kind of a fairy tale. But anyway, whatever made him, he took his lessons. But what is weird is like he just and the success note a guy should take from Doug is anything he can't do. When there's a lot of it he can't do, he just ignores that. He just finds somebody that can do it, and there's your success thing. But that's another big thing. Doug is a people person. If you want to be a success and you want to be like me, which is like a natural tendency toward hermit, then you're going to have limitations. Whereas if I had a big group of people around me that were sharpshooters, that's the other deal about being around a Doug guy. He will be happy to talk to you and all that. The only way you're going to really penetrate with Doug is like be of some use to him. He wants to know that you're after something and that you're a guy striding along and can do this and that, so that those big holes in Doug's game, maybe you can help him fill them up.
Yeah.
And so it's like he's a real funny guy. What's funny is all of the people that choose to, because that's the other deal about his personality. He's going to tell you what he thinks. And I think we all know in this modern society, if you tell people exactly what you think, what are you thinking? Edit yourself. So anyway,
he doesn't edit himself ever.
yeah,
and that's what I love about him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. No, well,
Sure.
That's it. That can be another thing, a big plus when you're trying to say, okay, I'll talk to anybody, because from what I'm telling you here that I am at the very least honest. I won't lie to you about this or that.
Well, and I think he gets away with some of the statements and speaking his mind as such is the fact that he, and I don't know him, but what I've
Well,
seen
you
of
do
him,
know him. To see him on his show is to know him. Really, he'd give you that exact same.
Well, what I was going to say is he does not seem like a vicious person or a mean person.
No,
and there's so many people in the comic industry and in the entertainment industry that are snarky and mean, and so when you feel like he's not that way, then I think he gets away with speaking his mind and saying how he feels, because it never comes across as mean. Now you may disagree with him, but I think that's how he escapes a lot of the criticism that have come across some of the other people who have maybe shown similar beliefs as him. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, sure. All the comics. What is funny is they had some sort of mini royal rolling going on in the Comicsgate group, which I'm not even sure how you start working on the brackets of what is Comicsgate.
Yeah.
But they had something where they were going back and forth within their little system there, their little mini culture, and it was weird. I mean, there's apparently like a very kind of like semi-vulgar part of the culture that Doug doesn't like, and so
Right.
they were like going back and forth with each other, and it's like
He was like, I'm done. I'm done with Comicsgate.
what's that?
And Doug was like, I'm done. I'm no longer.
He doesn't want to be.
Is that why he came out and said that?
Yeah, I think so. Well, yeah, there was some sort of, I forget the exact details. I never know the exact details on that kind of stuff. I'm supposed to be on the Drawn and Quartered tonight, which has got.
I was going to ask you if you're going to.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna have to.
That's why I'm drawing this Optimus Prime here.
Is that what it is? Transformers?
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Well, Brian Shear's not going to be on there, is it? Because that's gonna. I mean,
he is going to be on there. I said Ringer. Yeah, we're all done. We're all done. Yeah, he should be. These things are hard to draw anyway.
Yeah.
And, but what you should do is, like here, I'll show in the corner. It's like right there, the proportions. This guy is 20 heads high, and so if you want to draw him, you're going to have to draw this outlandish torso, and then you're going to have to draw little birdie legs on him and little birdie arms, and then Popeye attachment at the ends of them. And that's a quick shorthand you could come up with for like getting there in a hurry,
There
it is.
that reminds me of, I saw a drawing one time that was John Byrne showing how to draw the Thing, and it was real similar. The head is smaller, and he doesn't have a shoulder, or he doesn't have a neck, and that sort of thing. You got to figure out the Transformer code.
Yeah. I always thought it'd be funny to be the artist that decided that during your run on the Fantastic Four that the Thing was going to wear a muumuu to where you wouldn't have to draw all that heavy texture.
Rocks.
Yeah, all those rocks on his skin.
Well, they've done that off and on. They put him in a bodysuit. You kind of wonder. Yeah.
Well,
heck, even Kirby did.
That would be smart.
Well. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I've drawn a couple of Fantastic Four samples, and it's always been the Thing. It always starts off with the Thing walking around, and I always struggle on what to make him wear. Does he wear? Yeah. And
he wears a classic Kirby. Kirby's influenced by his favorite movies. He's going to wear some detective's trench coat. Yeah.
I've drawn him wearing a trench coat, and I've had people go, "That's not what he wears," and I'm like, "Well,
what? Of course, that's what he wears."
Yeah, he's worn everything over however many years.
So, Alice, I know you're going to give me a modest answer, but I'm just curious. Okay, so you worked with Doug, and then you worked with Mike Miller, and both guys became hugely successful. But the one thing that they have in common is Ellis, right?
Right. No, I am their lucky charm. You are right.
Ellis is the secret sauce.
So you're kind of like the Obi-Wan, right? I mean, you
No, I didn't teach.
Yes.
I didn't teach you any of those guys anything.
I think they disagree. I know Doug all the time says that you're the best pencilist he's ever seen.
Wow, I can't believe he actually is throwing that out there. It can get me.
Well, he said pencils, though. He didn't.
He didn't say I could eat.
He didn't give you too much joy there.
Yeah. He's not giving me a lot of praise on some of my efforts on this idea of doing graphic novels. He just wants me to turn into a writer, pure and simple. Which I've got to tell you, I've told Scott this. My biggest. Let me check our time here. How long do you think we've been talking?
About 40 minutes.
Okay. I don't want to hog anything, but I just wanted to tell you, in terms of like, a guy that wants to make films, obviously becomes the most important part of the filmmaking process if he gets good at writing screenplays. This Doug, again, tagging on to Doug, I got to meet Scott Derrickson that does this Doctor Strange movies. And Scott Derrickson had a very cool quote that I've probably used about 20 times now, that a script, if it is good enough, you could just throw it out your car window and it would get made. If it rises to a certain level of quality, of just like being an economical good thing that someone just obviously sees it's worth the moment they read it, it'll get made. So that thing of like thinking that I'll never get past this or that. Well, and again, part of what makes something good is like, have you thought about the market? There's a lot of little things that if it's good enough, that term good had to go into it to make it good. But I believe that. I believe that if I did a good enough job on a screenplay, I could have the gratification of being very important to filmmaking, So I have been working on this screenplay called The Locust Bride. Okay, here's my log line. A runaway actress and the gunslinger hired to find her unite in the town of Locust until the occult medicine show arranges her marriage to a monster. So that's the log line. And there is such a fun thing that went on with that, because it's been a mess at every step up until the last like 90% of the thing. And plus I was self-deluded all along, thinking I had more of it done than I did. and so that was probably important to it, that self-delusion, that I actually had the story more together than I did. But each time digging back into it and continuing to massage it, it has been so gratifying. And right now, I'm calling it officially finished.
What?
Yeah, I'm all done.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm going to give it to the blacklist and pay that $30 a month that it takes to have it active, and I'll let it hang out there for about 6 months and see if anybody. You can pay an extra 70 or 80 and have somebody read it, which automatically promotes it by virtue of a reader will give you a Rotten Tomatoes kind of score type of thing, which I may do that. I may step on. I mean, after all, spending 180 versus spending 250, I don't know what it amounts to. To give it a chance, give it its chance, and see if somebody wants it. Like I say, with that thing of Scott Derrickson's in the back of my mind, if it's good enough, it will get picked up.
I hope it does. And I heard you read Scott a portion of it. I think the part I heard was like a conjoined twin or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A hunchback with his little brother. His brother.
Yeah, I was thinking, man, this is like, I would love to see David Lynch.
Yeah.
So would Ellis.
Yeah, sure. On Sam Raimi, he'd probably be good. Yeah. He'd be good. What's your favorite little indie, the smallest film you can point to that you like it a lot?
Wow.
There's one called Splinter that was made here in Oklahoma. It's pretty interesting, about a guy that, it's what I consider one of the smart things a guy that's doing little indie films can do, which is do a siege movie where forces are coming in at you, that you are able to localize your little set and all that, and get all your assets right together, and all the people know that they have to be there at that one spot, and that holds your budget down a little bit. That's Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah,
Assault on Precinct
13. That's right.
That was just on my mind, Scott.
Yeah,
that was just on my mind. That is a great flick, great Carpenter flick.
Yeah,
one of the best themes of all time. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's your guys' top 5 films of any?
Well, if we went by Cinema
Uh,
Podcast, which
no,
has
because
been our favorite of the Cinema Podcasts?
the ones we've watched.
Yeah, I think Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Oh,
I
with
like
the
Pelham,
not the Travolta though.
no, the original one.
Walter
Matthau.
Walter Matthau. Yeah, that's a great movie. I've got that. I picked that, and I've probably seen that movie dozens of times. It's a great. I love New York City, and it's a great New York City movie.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody, guy at work, about superhero movies, and for my money, still my favorite superhero movie is Spider-Man 2. Not the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but Spider-Man 2.
Is that the Doc Ock? Doc Ock?
Doc Ock, yeah.
Okay.
And just because, to me, a superhero, there has to be a sense of peril, and and a sense of sacrifice, and Marvel does it some, obviously, but I just felt like that idea of, here's Peter Parker, and he's not really forced into this, but just because he's Spider-Man, he has to put off his relationship with Mary Jane,
His hero's journey has to.
Yeah.
He has to make a choice, and he has to do this or that. Yeah.
Yeah, and to me that and I like Spider-Man a lot. One of my favorite characters. I'm still fond of the original Star Wars. Akira is another movie. I don't know if you count animated movies, but
Sure.
Akira had a big influence on me because I saw it when I was in art school. One of the instructors brought a copy that he had got from somebody that had gone to Japan, and it was a VHS copy, and it was not translated or dubbed or anything, but he showed it to our art class, and it was just phenomenal. I just saw it at the right time, kind of deals,
Yeah.
What about you, Ellis?
Oh, my favorite kind of movies that the ones that I've got in my Amazon library, which I've decided to buy, which I've got, that are mine to watch anytime I want to. Sometimes I've got Pelham 1, 2, 3 is one of them. I have one.
Really?
I have one called The Outfit, which is a Robert Duvall thing, which is probably the best interpretation of Parker without calling him Parker.
Is that a Donald Westlake?
Yeah, it's a Donald Westlake one, and it's probably done as well as you're going to see the Parker stories done. It's got Joe Don Baker in it. It's really pretty good. What else is in there? Dune is in there, which
Dune.
And I've got I Married a Monster from Outer Space in my library. I've got one. Some of these are based on like when I was a child of seeing them. And again, I've got Atlantis, a George Powell movie that was all about this Greek fisherman that stumbles into the lost continent of Atlantis. That's really cool. It's cool to me, I mean, it's obviously dated.
Did it have guys in underwater suits? I mean, I asked that knowing it does.
No, I don't think they do anything underwater in it. They do it all surface, other than there's a big giant fish submarine that comes at him at one point. No, he's got to fight in a fight for his life in a pit that turns from both a drowning hazard to a burning alive hazard.
Oh, geez.
So it's like a cool ordeal he has to go through to fight for his life. And it's it's one of those movies that it's George Powell, and
right.
They used a lot of the footage from it in, if you've ever seen The Seven Faces of Dr. Lau.
Oh, yeah.
It was a lot of the, or no, you know what the case may be? It may be that because George Powell did Dr. Lau too. I guess
Oh,
he
he
just.
did? I
I
didn't
think.
know
I think he
that.
reused the footage in a couple of cases. So I think he reused footage from an old classic movie that had an earthquake, a lot of earthquake hazards in it.
When Worlds Collide. That
Yeah,
was a
something.
George.
Yeah. That's another George Bell.
I was
Yeah.
watching this documentary about the unmade films of Stanley Kubrick,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
and well, one thing that he passed on, I find this very interesting because I think it would have been, well, the film itself is quite
AI.
good the way it is, but could you imagine if Kubrick had directed The Exorcist?
Oh, really? Oh,
And that was
Oh, wow.
I thought you were going to say AI. I know that.
no, The Exorcist, and it was shocked to him, and of course he for some reason turned it down. And another one that he wanted to do was Lord of the Rings.
Oh, wow.
It was going to star the Beatles,
Oh, geez.
but at that time, Tolkien was still alive, and he hated the Beatles, and
Yeah.
he wouldn't let it happen. But,
Good for him.
and they always talk
mean,
about the Napoleon movie that was never made. Also,
oh, yeah.
Which
Friend
movie?
of mine,
Napoleon.
Napoleon.
Oh, yeah.
I guess Waterloo came out. Not what? Yeah, with
Yeah,
Tony
Waterloo.
Curtis, and it kind of ruined the whole. I guess it didn't do very well, and so
No, it did, and it was a huge budget movie. I saw it
I
not too
don't even
long
know
ago.
anything about Waterloo. Huh? Interesting.
It's a Napoleon movie. It was filmed in somewhere in Russia, and it had the Russian military play as extras. It was filmed in Russia, so the state supported it, and they let them use the Russian military as extras. So it has these battles with just thousands of people in it and horses and stuff. These huge battles, but the movie's really pretty dull for these huge battles. It's on YouTube.
Huh?
I think that's where I saw it at least.
speaking of dull films, as much as I love Kubrick, Barry Lyndon is, oh my God, it's like watching paint dry, isn't it? Or am I? Oh,
We watched that for one of our movies, didn't we?
No, we haven't. We've
I hope I'm
talked
not
about
insulting
it.
one of you guys' favorite films or anything.
No, I've got it and I've watched it and it's pretty dull
It's
in
beautiful
my opinion.
looking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess we haven't seen that. Now that's weird. I was thinking we'd seen that for some reason. I guess I saw.
No, they've talked about picking it, but because the other two guys on the podcast are big Stanley Kubrick fans of, or big fans of Stanley Kubrick.
You guys
But,
couldn't do it though. It's past your limit.
Is it?
Is it?
See, because the Clockwork Orange was 71, and I'm pretty sure.
Hold up. I'm on my computer.
Well, that'd be a shame if we couldn't watch that masterpiece.
I think it's 76. That's my guess.
Oh, now I have to find the other thing that's opened. Barry Lyndon. I was surprised because I dropped out watching it one other time, like you, finding it boring. And I think the deal is that when you return to a Kubrick movie, you realize, no, that was just perfect. The pacing was just great. And but it seems like he takes his time, but actually he's just letting it breathe. I don't know. It's just perfect when you go back to rewatch some of that.
Well, that's how I felt about Eyes Wide Shut. At first, I was like, I'm disappointed, and then I watched it again. I'm like, you know what? It gets better every time I see it. I don't know.
I have not given that its second chance. I have not given Eyes Wide Shut its second chance. 1975. You're right. It's too late. Yeah. Well, that's fine. That'll make Dave happy because I think he's the one that always said no, that's incredibly boring. No.
I'm gonna watch it again then. If you guys watched it the second time and you have a greater appreciation for it.
I did for sure. I did. I was impressed by the fact that it was almost all available light.
Oh,
But,
I think
you
it's
know,
I think it's all available light.
that's got nothing to do with whether or not the story's any good.
No.
What else did I? You had seen The Ultimate Warrior, which is
Yeah.
a real rarity. People, because for one thing, I think you can only get it on video on demand from Warner Brothers, their little archive. How did you see it?
HBO when I was a kid.
Okay,
Now, what is the Ultimate Warrior?
it is the King and I's Yul Brynner,
And Max von Sydow, I believe.
Max von Sydow, and William Smith. That's the bad guy. Of course, he's the bad guy.
Okay, what's it about though?
It's a post-apocalyptic thing where
Really?
everything's gone to hell. And Yul Brynner's opening scene is just so classic. And I'll have to give you a copy of it. I think I've got it as an MP4, so I'll give it to you.
I do not support piracy, Ellis.
Okay. I've got
Certainly not on a public forum.
Well, it's an MP4 made for my VOD that I had to send for. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure also Yule was in his 60s when he did that. Pretty close. And he was in amazing shape for that.
Man was an incredible good at taking care of himself. Yeah. If you wanted to dig into something, watch. I think it's on Amazon Prime or something. Watch any documentary about Yul Brynner. The guy was really a Renaissance man. He's one of these guys, that cool confidence he seems to project. There's a reason for it. That guy, in the heyday of live TV, he was their go-to guy for directing those chaotic projects where everything had to go right. And his talent, we think of him as an actor. He was a killer director. He could just he made it happen. And so the respect people have for Yul Brynner is probably really unsung. Probably everybody that ever worked with him just said, "Yes, Mr. Brynner," or whatever. He's one of those personalities.
Gotcha.
So, but anyway, The Ultimate Warrior's got that. His opening scene is like, if you've got that sort of presence, what do you do with him? You stick him out on a dais where he's standing there with a buck knife in one hand, and he's naked to the waist, and he's just standing there waiting for somebody that might want to talk to him and hire his services. He doesn't even know. He just knows that everybody in this blighted area will have eyes on him, and so that if anybody's got an interest in him, they will come to him.
It's like your script.
Yes, exactly.
Eventually they'll get there.
Yeah, but no, it starts with that premise, and and it's directed by Robert Klaus. That's right, the guy that Bruce Lee hired for Enter the Dragon. Yeah.
No.
Okay. This was the movie.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
Yeah, before Darker Than Amber.
Now,
Before
what is Darker Than Amber? What is Darker Than Amber?
Darker Amber is John D. McDonald, about the only time that Travis McGee has ever found his way to film. A lot of people complained about it at the time because it was, Rod Taylor is not the body type.
Yeah.
But he was actually perfect for him. He's got that that Aussie, toughness that they seem like they send out for our own movies, saying, "Yeah, we need somebody tough in this," and then they go through all the casting and pick an Aussie for it.
Yeah, they send down to Australia for the
for their tough guys.
I heard Steve McQueen and Yul Brynner hated each other, and they wouldn't speak to each other on the set of The Magnificent Seven. I wonder if there's any truth to that.
I don't know if they hated each other. I'm sure because McQueen, the story goes that he had a lot of things figured out for scene hogging. That an old pro like Brenner probably kind of resented. It's like, okay, get your little bit done.
Yeah.
so we can both be back on film together. But you can't deny what McQueen had either. He was good at what he did. It would be interesting to know the exact, because I think they had chemistry together. They were good together.
And maybe he kind of had an ego too, because you remember, what was it, Towering Inferno with him and Paul Newman?
Yeah.
And
they if you were going by the times, they should have worked together 20 times.
Yeah. But McQueen said he had to have his name come first in the title. And they're like, well, what if we put your name first in the lower left-hand corner and put Paul Newman's name above yours, but it's in the upper right-hand corner, but your name technically comes first? And he's like, yeah, okay, well, we can do that. As long as it technically comes first. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of petty.
Well, it's one of those things that it's about the only thing they jockey over and on that kind of stuff. At least back in that day. I mean, the old days back then.
Yeah, because you had to do that first. Like, Star Wars was the first film, I believe, and it was even that's why Lucas had to quit the American Film Institute or whatever, because you cannot show the title of the film before you show the cast.
And,
oh, really?
And yeah, and of course Lucas changed all that, and that's why I believe he dropped out of the, maybe it was the Writers Guild or.
That's interesting. I did not know that. That's pretty cool trivia. Do you pay attention to like Red Letter Media?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun in terms of like, being everyman kind of film critics. I kind of enjoy their stuff. They had a pretty cool take on, Star Wars, obviously.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that one where Rich goes to a convention and he's dressed like Lucas?
I have not.
That's a funny one.
Because think about Lucas. All those films were successful when he was married to Linda Lucas, his wife.
He was an editor.
Yeah. There's a THX 1138, which I really enjoy that Robert Duvall. It's a good Robert Duvall performance. Yeah. In American Graffiti, and then the first two Star Wars movies, and then I don't know. I don't know if he got lazy. I mean, look at me calling George Lucas lazy. Isn't that hilarious?
Well, I think he got tied to that success. And how do you turn that money down and move on to something new?
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast today, and they were talking about the Eastman and Laird, the guys that did the Ninja Turtles. And the guy doing the podcast said, while they were wildly successful with Ninja Turtles, he said, I kind of would like to have seen what else they were going to do, because they had other ideas, but they just their first project was so successful that they just had to see it through, and it just ate up their lives. And I think Lucas is the same way. Almost everything he's done has been tied to either Star Wars or Raiders.
Because he's a hell of a producer. I mean, he produced the Indiana Jones and Willow and Dark Crystal.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe having that kind of stuff happening. Well, I mean, those sort of talent sets, you can decide that that kind of work. A lot of people do that think they wanted to be directors, and then when they realize, I never want to do that again. I never want to dip into that madhouse again.
Yeah,
because it is, becoming. It's either not going to get made, or you're going to have to become a different creature that just thinks about nothing else but that. Or the time it takes
is compromised. And I was wondering, like, how disappointed would you be if your screenplay was picked up? Because usually they don't let the writer on set because they want the director to sort of be able to have this complete vision, and the writer sometimes, of course, rightfully so, would interfere. But
I don't think I'd be that way. I wouldn't care because I laugh at a line. I watched Sunset Boulevard just real recently, and he's a writer and he's pitching to a guy that he's trying to pitch this real serious thing about a baseball legend's last days. And and the guy he's pitching it to said, "Well, I can see it. Maybe we can turn it into a girls' softball team."
Yeah, and make it a comedy.
Yeah, and make it a comedy, and make it a romantic comedy. And the guy, he just has to roll with it. William Holden just plays it perfectly. Like, I've heard this before. Okay, fine, yeah, let's do that.
Well, it's like Neil Adams. They contacted him about doing a Dead Man.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
It was Neil Adams, I think. And they came to him and said, "Okay, but we have a few changes." He's like, "Okay, what's the changes?" He goes, "Well, first off, it's not a man; it's a woman."
Okay, yeah, we can go with that.
Right. Okay. And secondly, she's not dead.
Yeah, exactly. Everything they can just tick off the list and just changing everything necessary to make it what it is. Yeah.
Now, what are you making exactly? Why are you making this?
Yeah.
What appeals to you about this?
Oh yeah, and the guy who couldn't stand that was, of course, Harlan Ellison. He just wanted to slap everybody he came in contact with in Hollywood. And of course, other writers loved him for it, but he probably didn't work as much as he probably worked exactly as much as he wanted to. I think he had I think when you talk about Ellison, he almost went like with his first drafts. He would write in like store windows and have it ready to go as it came off the typewriter.
How can you do that?
I don't know. He was kind of an idiot savant at that, but I think there is also no real lengthy, big, major opus of Harlan Ellison. And I think he probably was like attention deficit disorder kind of guy. He was one of these guys that, like the guy that was the producer on the Rockford Files, and there's several of these guys. They've got dyslexia. They can't write. They can't sit down and write sentences or read, and they have to dictate their stories.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was different before computers too.
Yeah.
Writers work differently.
Yeah. Final draft is a lot of fun. I mean, if you've never dipped into that, I was amazed how much fun that is.
I just think that, writing, I mean, you think about writing, now it seems archaic to pick up a typewriter and start writing, but that's how everybody did it back then.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, they had notes and stuff, but still.
Well, Scott, I know you're an artist. I don't know if you write your own stuff, but I'm curious about both you guys' writing process. I know Doug says that he has to know the ending first. And for me, if I knew the ending before I started writing, I would be so bored that I couldn't finish the project. It has to be something that I'm surprising myself with, and then later on I'll go back in and sort of prelude to the ending if need be. But I can't know the ending, or I'll bore myself to death. How do you guys work?
I'm not a writer.
You hear that a lot, and you hear that probably as much as anything, that you need to know the ending. I'm with you. I don't think you can know the ending, because I think if you aren't changing the ending as you go, you probably should try to have a theme. You should probably try to have an ending. But if in the process you aren't changing what you ended up thinking you were doing, it probably is something that never really came to life for you. The idea of knowing the ending is really good in terms of like this Cargill, who was a guy that was important to Doug early on, was he was known as Massa Worm, yeah, and he was a reviewer for Ain't It Cool News, and he said how great Creature Tech was, which caused a bidding war for Creature Tech. So he gave it just the right amount of little push that needed to get Doug started on all the graphic novels he would eventually do. But this Robert Cargill is great at being helpful to writers, and follow him on Twitter if you didn't know about him. But he writes all the time about knowing your ending and all that. But then you get into interviews with guys like Walter Hill.
Oh my God, I love Walter Hill.
Yeah, and they talk about their process, and it sounds more like mine. They talk about we didn't know where we were going, and when you talk to these guys at Pixar, they're famous for having, they go up until the 11th hour with all kinds of problems they still haven't solved, and it's story problems. And as perfect as those stories are, you wouldn't believe that. You would think they went into it with everything all boarded out and solved, but that's not the case. They are pitching and doing things all along in that process while they were making those movies, which amazed me. They talked about on Up how, because I was involved with a video game on Up, so I got to go down there and hear some of this straight from the horse's mouth stuff. They were very 11th hour, and they finally got a very important click on the note of the old guy that they didn't have before. I wish I could give you the exact memory of this, but it was very interesting. And of course, the rare Pixar that doesn't work, John Carter of Mars, you can see where, by virtue of not being able to go back and re-render it at every step of the way, having to do live action, the Pixar live action, they learned the lesson that, hey man, you do have to solve everything before you start. They didn't have that advantage on that movie.
Yeah. Do you guys think Streets of Fire is underrated? Speaking of Walter Hill.
Yeah, I love Streets of Fire. It's good. It's
I have it. I've never watched it.
It's kind of like set bound. It feels like it just goes around the block a couple of times, which is not bad for a little, like we were talking about, indie little movies. Why not stay in the same neighborhood?
Well, in my mind, I always think it's in the same world as the Warriors.
Yeah.
I don't know why I feel that way, but I feel like it should be in the same universe.
Yeah, it does. It does feel a lot like, of course, same era, huh?
Yeah.
It is hard to watch the Warriors nowadays with all those fruity-looking guys running around in it, supposedly looking dangerous. But
oh my God, yeah, they couldn't whip anybody. I mean,
everybody's favorite is the Furies, because at least they've got baseball bats.
Yeah.
And plus and this is important, the only thing that was badass about what was it? What would it be called? The Star Wars #1, with the red guy.
Oh, Darth Maul, Phantom Menace.
Yeah, Phantom Menace. The only thing that's cool about that is that character, because he doesn't say a word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Furies don't say a word, and so they're the coolest thing.
Is this bad? I don't know how you feel, Scott, but after I came home from the theater of The Last Jedi, and I just so happened to catch, when I came home, TBS or TNT or something was playing The Phantom Menace. And after watching The Last Jedi, I was like, you know what? This is not a bad movie. And I'm like, man, did you guys like The Last Jedi? Because when Luke threw the lightsaber over his shoulder, I was kind of like, I'm done.
I did watch it. I didn't like it much.
My true appreciation for Star Wars is pretty much limited to one movie.
Empire.
No.
Oh.
No, I when I was a kid, I saw the first Star Wars movie
Oh.
at the theater, and I thought it was great. I was, I don't know, 10, something like that, and it was the perfect movie to see. I was the perfect age, and none of them have ever hit me at that same spot again, of course, because I got older, and that it was perfect, and I've never been a big. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Some of them. I mean, I've liked the original trilogy. Don't get me wrong, but none of them felt as special to me as the first one. And I really didn't think. I mean, honestly, if I don't see myself pulling out and watching any of them except for the first one.
Yeah. For me, it was Empire. I don't know why that struck me so hard, but it it did. I think you could take that same concept and put it in any time, like structurally, the
Yeah.
script, and put it in any genre or any era, and I think it could work. And now
Yeah. I mean,
you guys are going to chastise me over this because you guys are the movie experts, but
No, I'm not an expert. Yeah, but go ahead.
oh,
I wanted to make it clear
sorry.
I'm not an expert.
The sound cut out on me. I think my headphones are getting ready to die. So what'd you say?
I just think that I'm probably going to get chastised for this because you guys are are super knowledgeable about film. But I think you could take that script of Empire. I know you didn't like it particularly, but I think that could work in almost any genre in any era, just the way it's set up.
Well, you could conceivably take it and it could have been a World War II movie, fairly,
Yeah,
or something like that. I mean, obviously, it'd have to be some sort of a conflict kind of. I mean, but
it could be
yeah,
a comedy, probably.
no. But yeah, I mean, you could make it. It could be a fantasy thing or something like that. It it. I think the original Star Wars films work so well because they kind of hit on, um, you know, when they came out, there was a big deal about how George Lucas studied Campbell and all this kind of the hero journey and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And it's a cliche, but there is kind of that there is something to that in that it is like they are heroic films and there is kind of a journey and they're the kind of the epitome of to me what makes a good fantastic film, and I
yeah,
mean that from a fantasy type, not
right.
I mean and they hit on a lot of notes that I think some of the follow up films did not deliver on that for whatever reason.
Maybe
It's like
I'm with you on like in THX 1138, talking about your little indie films, and that's one I really hated to see him messing with.
oh my god, it's unrecognizable now.
Yeah, I don't like adding CGI to something that was solved so brilliantly as something where he was dealing with limitations. I mean, did he really resent those limitations so much that he had to come back and play with that like that? Because the limitations were so genius. I mean, the that idea of Robert Duvall's prison being an infinite white fog,
Yeah,
that's so cool. But at the same time, probably pretty cheap to do.
yeah. Well, just like Star Wars, I was blown away, and I thought George Lucas was such a genius. I'm like, you got this guy, Jabba the Hutt, who's throughout this entire trilogy, but you never see him until the final film, or what at the time was the final film.
Uh huh.
And then he gets inserted into the very first film where Han steps on his tail, and for some reason he's considerably smaller, and I hated it.
Yeah, yeah.
oh
I mean
yeah
that's
yeah
dumb. I haven't even seen that. See, I haven't rewound and gone for all these things. I just hear about them. I say, well, I've seen it. And I've seen it the way it should be seen. Same with Apocalypse Now. All this stuff where they go back and mess with them. It's like you should have solved all that before you presented it to me. I guess The Godfather that might be the exception there, but they probably he massaged those perfectly, I guess.
Yeah, and where do you guys stand? Like, I don't think the reason why he shouldn't do it is because I don't think they belong to him anymore. Once you release something, it kind of belongs to the people, right? Or
Yeah, I guess so, but I
well,
guess legally, no.
yeah,
And I guess that's all that
I,
counts.
I, I mean, they're his. He can tinker with them, but I don't. The thing that I kind of don't like is that he makes them unavailable. the original versions.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I mean, he can do what he wants to do, but it would be nice to have the original version on DVD or whatever that I could pop into my. Which, I mean, people have gone back and restored them and stuff, but yeah. I mean, I don't. I mean, he has the legal right, and he has the. I don't really. I think. I guess as an artist, I don't feel like the audience is entitled to anything. But the flip side is the creator is not entitled to an audience. So it's behooving to the creator to kind of heed the audience. In my opinion,
are there films that you guys like that are like embarrassing, like guilty pleasures, like I don't know, Howard the Duck or Batteries Not Included or something like that?
There's movies I like that it's pretty clear that the rest of the world hates them. Yeah. The Casino Royale that's just sinned up. I kind of like that.
Peter Sellers Casino Royale?
The Peter Sellers one. Yeah.
Awesome.
What else that I think is decent that everybody else hates? That'd be the important part. Everybody else is, what are you talking? Creature from the Haunted Sea, I think is more entertaining than just about anything because I saw it when I was a kid, and I remember it as reacting to it as a legitimate horror film where it actually scared me, and I look at that, it's like, what kind of little idiot did I have to be that I was ever scared by a single second of this comedy? But but it had an effective creature in it for a few minutes that kept me in dread of it showing up again. And they've got a guy that's an actor in it named Robert Towne. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
He wrote Chinatown.
Oh,
he's one of the guys that was with Corman back then, and he was in little movies like Creature from the Haunted Sea, and he wrote The Last Woman on Earth. Which is got such a weak premise of everybody that survives on Earth just happens to have been on one scuba diving trip to where they, when they surface, their oxygen supply is the only thing that kept them from being exposed to the sudden, I forget what happened to them, carbon monoxide hit that everybody else took on the surface. But as weak as that premise is, it's actually pretty well done as character studies.
They've used that premise too, like Night of the Comet is almost the exact same premise.
Kind of, yeah. All of a sudden, if you're a quiet Earth, it's like if you are at the moment of death, you transition to this little alternate universe where these three people find each other.
Yeah.
That was kind of have you seen A Quiet Earth?
I have.
It's pretty good. So at least it's got a great ending.
I also saw one of my guilty pleasures is Damnation Alley. Have you guys seen that one with George Papard?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
It's George Papard and the guy who was in Airwolf. He was an actor for Disney when he was a kid. Not Kurt Russell, but the other one. The guy who was in The Mechanic with Charles Bronson.
Jan Michael Vincent.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And they're in this supposedly like highly technical van or RV in this post-apocalyptic world. It's great. It's great cheese, if you will.
Yeah.
I've read the book, believe it or not.
There was a book? Oh my God.
Now,
I
don't know if it's based off the novel or if it was a novelization of the movie. But I read it when I was a kid, and I remember they were delivering like vaccine or something across the country, right?
Yeah.
Is it like Roger Zelazny?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yep. That's exactly what it was.
When you said you read the book, it reminded me. I have a kind of a funny story regarding that. I went to go see long time ago. I went to go see Passion of the Christ, and I wasn't going to see it for a long time because I told my friend, he goes, "Why not?" I said, "Because I've read the book, And he goes, "It was a book."
That's
And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, it sure was.
Hey
What do you
guys,
think about
we've been at it for about an hour and a half. Does anybody want to say anything important they want to get across here? I'm just kidding.
I'm done with my book. With my
Look at that thing. Let's look at the here. I'll focus on you. Hang on. Okay, I'm focused on you.
Yep.
Look at that.
Wow, look at that. Look at that. You did that entire. You put all that ink on paper.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. You know, my thing is it going to have any balloons in it? Because you could have lost all the you could have drawn all those people down below that panel and had so much more headroom for them. Are you going to have balloons or not?
This guy says a couple words and they say a couple words back, but there's a conversation in this one that goes on.
Okay.
So,
Well, but I, you know, in terms of like Photoshop, you can do anything. If you decided to, you could draw that whole crowd down and continue that hatching on the top and give yourself some elbow room for however much balloons you need up there.
It doesn't have that much dialogue in it. The last panel actually has more dialogue.
Okay.
Now, Scott, I heard about your process. So you'll scan this in, right? And then you'll turn down all the colors to all black and white. Is that how you do it?
Yes. Well, yeah. I'll scan this as a 1200 DPI
PDF,
and that turns it into just straight black and white, and so all the gray will drop out, and I'll kind of go in and touch it up, and then I'll reduce it in size, and then send it to the colorist or the letterer. I lettered the first issue, but I think I'm gonna try and get out a letter in this one.
Hey, James, I can figure out how to send a link to obviously your video or your YouTube page. But if there's any other links you want me to link to, send them to me as a DM there on our Twitter.
All right. Awesome. I'm just glad you guys had me. This has been so much fun.
Well, it was fun to have you. It was a different dynamic. We talked about movies more, for one thing.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. If I'm ever invited back again,
sure, you bet. I mean, this thing just goes on because, that's the deal. You may know a lot more about how to do this kind of thing than I do. From your experience. You don't. Okay.
I don't.
Okay. But that's sort of, I noticed that it's going to change its format because when I clicked it on, it says, we're going away in a couple of months. So this Hangout will go away in this form, and it'll probably be more like what you were talking about, that DM thing. All of a sudden, it'll be like clicking.
Yeah. I'll send you a link to DLive, and maybe you can check it out. And
okay.
I've made. You can make. Let's see. This month I've made like $100.
Wow.
Hey.
I wouldn't mind making $100 a month from doing just a couple of videos or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be doing this stuff anyway. Like I have a Huey on. It's you know what a Huey on? It's like a knockoff of a Cintiq.
Got a Huey on.
And I'm going to be doing this stuff anyway. So why not make an extra $100 a week or month or whatever?
Yeah. Well, shoot, I need to get serious about that idea. I did something early on where I screwed up my Google AdSense by having 2 accounts. Yeah. And I've never made a cent from anything. So
I mean, I couldn't get any followers, and then instantly on DLive, I have 400 followers like in 2 weeks. So.
Wow, I've got to check this out.
Yeah, I'll send you a link, guys. You should try. Do you stream, Scott?
No, just this. I mean, I do the podcast. I do the movie podcast and with Ellis and our 2 of our friends once a month, and then I do another podcast with a friend of mine or with 2 friends of mine every week, and then I do a solo podcast every week. I figure that's about enough.
Yeah. Did you create the podcast?
One of them I did. I do a podcast called Scott at Midnight.
Right. That sounds cool.
Yeah, he does.
Sounds paranormal.
Well, it's not really, but I try and. But I mean, if you're thinking like an Art Bell kind of thing, that's the feel I'm going for. But I don't do that content.
Art Bell, last name I have not heard for a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. He hasn't been dead that long, but he bowed out for so long ago that It seems like he's been dead a long time.
Yeah.
On the show, Ellis. What's
Yeah,
up?
I guess we'll sign out here, and
Yeah.
you guys get together with me. Scott, you need to give me that link to your Scott at Midnight for one thing, and I'll add it to our links.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Scott, now, are you going to watch Ellis kick butt on Drawn and Quartered? Because I know I am.
Oh, you are.
Hey, what's the address?
Actually,
YouTube.
it's going to be on John Malin's channel this time because Mike Miller is in some Bible camp, and I assume he's like in charge of it or something. I don't know. So
I've been watching some of his videos. His videos are pretty good.
I have not watched enough of Mike's entertaining videos. I have not. I've mainly there's just something about it. Never mind. I won't add anything to that. I don't find them that entertaining to watch my friends ramble on like I'm rambling on here.
Oh, gotcha.
Well,
Okay,
you guys are a
guys.
fountain of information, both of you guys, and I hope we're friends now, Scott.
Sure.
You bet. I mean,
Awesome.
I think you're.
We'll do this again.
I want to know more about your $300 movie for one thing.
Hey, when the trailer goes up, I'm going to be the first person. You're going to be the first person that gets to see the.
Oh, you know what? I forgot to. If this was the Me and Scott show, this would have already come up. But I just wanted to tell Scott. You know what I've decided to do on my comic, The Nightland.
What's that?
I've decided to repurpose. You know, I'm going to do a comic book that looks like the old Kirby Monsters Unleashed kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not the idea.
Like a short. It's the one with short stories, right?
Right. More like flash fiction, short stories. And what I'm going to do is repurpose. The stories will bear no resemblance to what we did as short films, but I'm going to do coin toss.
Oh, awesome.
I'm going to do the hobo's bindle, and I'm going to do what was it? What do we call it? Phone tag.
Yeah.
But I'm going to change each and every one of them so that it's got monsters in it or something like that.
Okay.
But I may use. You may see yourself in it. You'll see yourself caricatured in it. We're going to see Count Gregor. We have a local horror host here named Count Gregor.
Awesome.
And I fed him a C note to come out with us and do a little short.
Ellis paid him to be a hobo.
Yeah, I paid him to be a hobo. And it's just a little short that you can find on YouTube, actually on my Plastic channel. Just type in the hobo's bindle. And
I can't wait. Yeah.
I'll send it to you. Well, anyway, guys, so that's it. I just wanted to tell Scott that.
That's cool.
Okay, everybody say goodbye.
Goodbye. Nice to meet you.
Take it easy.
Yep, you too, man. Win.
I will. Oops.